From Stockholm, Sweden, I'm presenting myself, Peter Keilinger, your host, featuring guests from around the world in interesting conversations and stories. This is one of the most beautiful opera voices I have ever heard. I wonder if it's easy to sing like this. Hi Norman. Oh, it's so great to talk with you. What's up? I've heard that you're going to sing Rossini.
Yeah, Cenerentola this summer.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's like an easier Barber Seville. Really, it's like the enjoyable Barber Seville for tenors, basically. It's fun, it's light, the singing is good, but less singing. It's less singing than Barber Seville.
I remember when we sang Don Giovanni and you sounded great as usual. But I always wondered, is it easy for you to sing?
No. No, that is not easy.
No. It's.
I mean, I know that if I can sing through something, the only thing that's going to stop me from doing it the next time is if if I'm healthy, is if I am overthinking things, if I'm over singing. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. Just about over singing. I'm really trying not to over sing, which I think is very easy, very, very easy to do. It really is, and it's something that takes over, and you think about halfway through, and you're like, uh-oh, I should not have, done what I just did. I should not have put that much, into it. And it's like a trick that I don't know if it can be taught, because I don't think no one else can know what I'm doing, really, except for me. And I've got to know what the max is of what I can output for a certain amount of time. And it's a hard thing to learn for singers, I think. I will say that I have learned in the last 4 or 5 years that the warm-up has been much more important to me, because and maybe that's where I'm finding what that limit is. I'm saying this out loud, and I'm thinking that's the truth. Last couple of productions, I've really tried to take the time before big rehearsals, where I have to run through the whole thing and really do a real solid warm-up. And I know that sounds ridiculous after this many years that I wasn't doing it, but I feel like I'm doing an extra strong warm-up this time. But I feel like that warm-up is about me finding that limit. Once I find that limit, once I've gone past it, once I have sung and sung and sung and sung, then I know that I can backpedal a little bit and kind of drift. That things are working. I know that this is too far to go, so I know to stay away from that kind of. That's a roundabout way of me of answering that question. but it's so many things that are going on in my head. Do you know what I mean? That so many things, kind of, and also kind of nothing. If I start thinking about it too much, then that I wonder if that's a tenor thing. It's not good to think about, oh, this is going to be high, or this stretch is real high. That's like the last thing I want to think about as I'm singing. But I think that is a tenor thing, because I mean, some of it is real high and real, it goes on and it's high, but it's almost you have to like turn off your mind a little bit and just do it.
Yeah.
The thinking about it is brutal. Do you know what I mean?
I think preparation is a fundamental thing, and to be healthy and in a good mood, I guess. What do you think?
Right. Yeah. I can remember a Barber of Seville once where I was sick. I had been sick, like really sick beforehand, and there was some time off. So most of the time I was really sick was just time off. But then I had this last performance to do, and I thought, okay, I'm kind of better. I can do this. And I remember I was staying a little bit out of town, and I took the train in for the performance. And like by the time I got to the theater, I knew that I'm not healthy. I'm not 100%. I'm not like 90%. Maybe I'm like 80% at best. And I got there, and I was telling them, that I was sick, and that, God, maybe I should cancel this, because I don't know if I'm going to make it through this. I mean, I'm exhausted. Yeah, I was exhausted, just like kind of getting there. And they were like, no, don't cancel. And they had offered me a shot of cortisone, which I've never done. And I thought, okay, I don't think I really want to do that. I don't want to try to sing this and not know what's happening down here. That seems bad too. So I did it. I forced myself to do it. And I can remember during the show, all of the kind of adjustments and moment by moment kind of like negotiations with my body and my voice that I had to make just to get through like the very first piece. And it lasted the whole show. And I was exhausted. I mean, I was sweating. It was exhausting. And I thought, this is the worst ever. And at the end of the show, I don't think anyone knew but me. No one knew but me how I was feeling, or the little micro decisions I had to make about, where I'm going to breathe, or how long I'm going to hold this, or can I cut this phrase out in this ensemble because I am super tired and can turn up stage and sing a little softer, and no one's going to know. It was, I mean, the entire show, Peter, it was exhausting. I was so tired, just mentally tired at the end of it, of making those choices, and no one knew at the end. Nobody knew.
No. Have you had the same technique? Or did you change anything?
I don't think I changed anything. I feel like I had a good teacher, a good couple of teachers. And
who were they?
Was a tenor. So my first teacher was a baritone, maybe even a bass baritone, and my second teacher was a tenor. Two different styles of, well, definitely different styles of teaching, and also two different styles of personality. But both of them taught me different things that I still like believe in, I guess. I think my first teacher really helped me with the breathing and And my second teacher, the tenor, helped. Well, he did. He really helped me, like, kind of just negotiate tenor. But I worked with him long after university, just to kind of check in. He was a good sounding board and knew when things were, knew when I was doing something he didn't want me to do, which is maybe what the best teachers can do. Do you know what I mean? He wants me to do this, and he can hear and see if I'm not doing that. There was one thing particular. I have a friend who also studied with him that I could never do. It was something he always wanted and asked for, and I just could not do it, and can't do it. And I guess as I got older, he let that slide. But I do remember even then thinking, I think everyone has done a master class where you're singing and that master teacher is asking you to do something that you're like, oh boy, I don't know, I can do this. You can choose to do it in that master class, but in your mind be like, I'm never going to do this again. Or, or you just immediately subscribe to it, which is also crazy. And I feel like for that, he was asking me to do something that I always was like, you know what, I'm going to do this in this classroom, but I know that I can't do this, that if I continue to do it the way he's asking me, that this is going to kill me, and I think it's just physiology. He was a little bit different than me, and it worked for him. He was a good tenor, but it didn't work for me. And I can maybe do it for a while, but I'd like to, I really like singing, and I'd like to continue to sing for as long as I can. And I know that I think even then, that if I do this, I've got the countdown clock will already start ticking of when I won't be able to sing anymore. But he was a great teacher. Really, he really was a really great teacher, and had a lot of success I went to a very small university, and but he had a handful of quite successful singers for such a small school. Yeah.
It's really great to be an opera singer, but sometimes I wonder if our profession has changed to be less creative than before. Let's face it, we are cover artists.
Yeah, I can see that too, actually. It is always somebody else making. Well, I wonder. Yes, someone else is making decision, director, conductor, someone else wrote the music. There are moments, I think, when you can do things as you please. No one can stop you once the curtain goes up for a while.
No.
I've certainly known people who have made a choice to say yes through rehearsal, process, and then get on stage and do something else.
We ought to be a lyric tenor or a dramatic baritone, or we should be
in the production, in the concept of the
right. I do agree. Right. I mean, I'm obviously got very limited choices in what I'm going to be in. If someone is producing something, I'm not going to be Don Giovanni.
No.
You know what I mean?
How has this pandemic situation affected your singing?
I think breaks are good, actually. I think if you knew what you were doing, and you were singing healthily, to start with, that taking a break from singing, I don't know if that's a bad thing. This past kind of year of coronavirus is a bit more extended, but I think if you knew what you were doing, that you might need a time to get the stamina back.
Well, I'm a little afraid that I will lose my technique if I don't sing regularly now when I'm not young anymore.
There are so many factors into how you sound, particularly when you get older. Youth can cover up a lot of things, kind of. As you get older, I think people find out either you had it or you didn't, or you misused it when you did have it, or you didn't. Maybe those are the two things. I think you can definitely do some damage through misuse. But I think even with a long break, everyone's had a long break now. If you had a good base to start with, and you were smart enough to think about things as you go along, I think those kind of long breaks and taking time off and not having to sing, every single day, is not a bad thing. No one other person knows what it is you have to do to produce your sound, really. And there's so many methods and so many ideas of what things should be, what they should sound like, and it just seems so subjective. And do you know what I mean? It's five people could be listening to an aria, some guy singing on stage, and there'll be 5 different opinions about it. and ultimately, it's really just about the singer getting from point A to point B. And if they can do that in a kind of pleasing way, what else is there, kind of?
I don't want opera to be boring, but sometimes I hear opera singers and it's not interesting. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's recordings. I think recordings have ruined us, actually.
Yes. Yeah.
I do. I think it's put some expectations on things that are not realistic, or not. Well, it's like singing. Nobody clearly goes to listen to a pop singer at a live concert and thinks they're going to hear, the record. Basically, do you know what I mean? That rarely happens. You might get a little close, you might get glimpses, but it's never. No. It's not a recording. Do you know what I mean? It's not. There's a reason that all those people in that studio, they're doing jobs. They're not just all sitting around. You know what I mean? They're all doing something that you can really tell. And I don't know. I feel like for some reason, classical music and opera, people listen to that record and listen to that CD and think that this is how this guy did this every single time. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
That is 100% not true. That's not how he did it that time, most of the time. Do you know what I mean? Even that recording is not real.
You're right. Oh, interesting. Yeah. So
and it's kind of worse now because at one time what they could do in a studio recording, you can essentially do in a live recording. So
yeah,
there's it's bad to put it on a pedestal and to put that as the pinnacle of a live performance, or as what a singer should do, because those are not real. Also, I think people have expectations about what they're going to hear, basically. And if it's anything close to that, then that's what they've heard. For good or bad. I think it's good. There is something about singing where you don't want everything to be perfect, kind of. You don't want everything to be, this is all sounding good, because then you get lost in, maybe particularly like in a stage performance, you get lost in just this kind of evenness of emotion, I guess. And maybe sometimes it is nice to sound different and to have that kind of individuality, and choices that not everyone's making, and it's a fine line. I think you can go overboard and it could be about something else or too weird, but it's nice to, I think it's very easy for opera singers to have a sound that gets too uniform with no individuality at all. And then it just sounds like everyone singing it. Sometimes young people, everyone is taught to sound like this, and then they just emulate that. And then everyone starts to sound exactly the same, which is not nice, actually. Yeah. Right. When you're too perfect, it's a little boring, I think. Yeah. And it just, everything gets washed out, and you get lost in your people are waiting for an in, I think, sometimes when they're listening to singing. Yeah. And when it's perfect, you kind of don't have that in, and you hear it and it's kind of like in one ear and out the other, basically, at least dramatically.
Yeah. What about repertoire?
My repertoire has generally stayed the same, with a few outliers. And I mean, by outliers, I mean things that I've done that maybe I shouldn't have done, but I thought was fun. And I'm okay with that. I really am okay with that. I feel like I don't feel, I haven't gotten really bored with anything. As much as you know, I can trash talk Mozart tenors forever. But if I'm singing that role, it is not, it's not any easier now than it was 20 years ago. It doesn't take any less concentration than it did before. It is still hard music, satisfying to do, personally satisfying. You know what I mean? It is not easy, and I do think that it gets relegated sometimes to the you know, we're gonna do Così fan tutte, and well, you know, anybody can, any, you know, young tenor can sing that. I don't think that is true, but it always feels like that's the starter kind of thing. It is like totally, I mean, I don't know about the other voice types, but for the tenor, that is, you know, either that's your thing or it's not your thing. And even if it is your thing, it is not easy. It is not they're not toss-offs by any means to successfully get through them. There are things I'd like to do that I haven't gotten a chance to do. And, you know, there was a time in my life where, actually, that's not true. I pretty much knew who I was from the get-go. maybe like very, very beginning. But as soon as I started like really working and singing, I knew what it was I was going to be singing. And I knew that there were things that I was never going to sing, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Do you think that opera will change in the future? No. No, I don't think so. I don't know. I think
I don't know. I don't know. It relies on so many. Well, first of all, it's out of the hands of the people that are doing it, and that is, if change is a good thing, and if change is what needs to happen, that I think is the biggest hurdle. Is that the people who are doing opera are not the people who have the power to make any change. So in this country, every company is dependent on the audience. I mean, audience and donors. If the audience and donors don't want to see it, it's a disaster. And I think for things to change, a large group of companies have to be able to determine that I can do this and I will be able to survive, and there will be an audience, and the audience will like it, without it necessarily being exactly the same. I mean, and I think for this country, I think there is a large percentage of population who has never seen an opera. And I think we have part of the barrier is the cost of going. And if you have to pay $80 to see something you've never seen before, that's a tough sell. You know what I mean? It really is. I mean, it has, connotations here of, being only for elite, only for rich people. It's in a foreign language. I won't understand what's happening. I don't like that type of music, even though you may or may not have ever heard it. You know what I mean? It's got all those things are barriers enough. You toss on, this is going to be $75 and it's 3 hours. That's a big hurdle, So I don't know what the change is. I think the change is education, young people. I think that works, but I do think it needs to be. It's easy to be like, we're gonna do this kind of opera education thing, and it's 5 weeks or 6 weeks or 3 months even. That's not going to do it, because people have so many choices of entertainment. You know what I mean? And you can try things and never leave the house. So right. I think it's got to be kind of rammed down people's throats, because I do think the majority of people would fall in love with it.
Yeah,
give it a shot. There's not much to not like, actually. I mean, who doesn't like music? Who doesn't like story?
How has the pandemic close down affected your profession? I mean, with cancelled productions and perhaps Christmas concerts and so on.
Christmas was hard because I've never not sung Messiah. I mean, this past Christmas was the first Christmas I haven't sung Messiah in decades. And that felt very strange. And not just the Messiah part, but, no Christmas singing. I did no Christmas singing. I mean, I was in high school, I think, when that happened last. Yeah. That was the strangest out of all coronavirus. That was the strangest feeling, that kind of Christmas period. It just felt odd to not do any singing. but now it's slowly coming back, and that's great. Yeah, it's really great. I've missed it a lot.
Yeah.
All of it. The singing, I miss it. I'd like to travel. I miss the traveling. I miss working with colleagues. Yeah, I've missed it. I shouldn't say that. I'm jinxing myself because now I'm gonna have like the worst colleagues ever.
Oh yeah. I guess I would love to talk to you again.
Let's do this again. I love talking about this stuff. We have to talk again soon. Okay. Cool, Peter.
Yeah.
It was good talking.
Yeah.
I should get going.
Yeah. Have a nice day.
Okay.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Bye.